So, folks, there are a lot of people out there who are telling you if you don't vote for Jill Stein or some other third party candidate, you are, in fact, supporting genocide. And I just want to make it absolutely crystal clear. Jill Stein is not an ally of the left in any regard, okay? Jill Stein is like basically going around absolutely mask off these days, okay? I stumbled across this clip where she's on a podcast, and well, she has something interesting to say about the people who attacked the capital of America to try and overthrow and subvert democracy. She has a weird opinion on that, everybody. Who knows what her opinion on that could be? Could it be good? Could it be bad? I think you might be able to figure it out.
The next question I have here is about January 6th. I'm going to read it because it's kind of a loaded question. Protesters from January 6th have received a combined total of nearly 850 years worth of prison sentences. Individuals like Zach Reel, Joe Biggs, Stuart Rhodes, and Enrique Otario received the longest sentences, ranging from 15 to 20.
But by the way, some of the people that she just read off there are leaders of groups that are acknowledged to be terrorist groups by other countries around the planet. So just as an FYI here, okay?
22 years. Those are longer.
Yeah, leaders of like the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, etc. Like groups that are, violent paramilitary organizations.
Than the 4 people who got term sentences at the Nuremberg trials. So my question for you is, why should they serve longer sentences than actual Nazis? And as president, would you commute or not, if not completely pardon all nonviolent January 6 protesters? That's kind of a loaded question there.
Yeah. I guess I would have to look more carefully at their actual charges. When I look at January 6th, it was dangerous. People broke laws. They should be held accountable for breaking laws. But whether the sentences were reasonable, I would have to dive more into the weeds than I have done. In the big scheme, I see a lot around January 6th as.
I don't. Gee whiz, Rick. I don't know. Maybe they broke the law and they should be held accountable if they did. But maybe we shouldn't be so harsh with fascists trying to overthrow democracy, Rick. Like, God, the political Morty over here.
Being blown up for political reasons.
Yeah, they're all being imprisoned for political reasons. Those political reasons being that they tried to overthrow the democratic process and broke into the halls of the Capitol complex, shouting how they wanted to hang the vice president. Did you just say political Morty? Look, if I'm not making references that are at least 5 years out of date, is it even a Riverboat Jack stream? Okay? The Kermit. It wasn't a Kermit, it was Morty from Rick and Morty. Okay. All right. Look, I need to establish that I'm old and out of touch in some way. Just let me have this. But look, all I'm trying to tell you guys is that, like, Jill Stein is a joke. She's out there trying to cozy up to MAGA types. Because she is, for all intents and purposes, just a candidate that is put on the ballot to try and sink one of 2 parties in her duopoly of a system. Green Party, third party voters, like, they recognize we have a 2-party duopoly. So if you're recognizing that fact, then you also have to recognize that you have if you have poll numbers as bad and abysmal as Jill Stein's, that you are basically facing the scenario of being a spoiler candidate. In which case, you have to look at who you're spoiling the election in favor of. And in this case, it's Donald Trump, guys. Like, there's really no getting around it. Like, Jill Stein in this election cycle is holding water for fascists. And I'm not saying that in a hyperbolic, like, oh, all conservatives are fascists, or all Republicans are fascists. But I mean it in the sense that Donald Trump is a fascist. Just as fascist as Hitler or Mussolini or Franco, he is a fascist. You might be saying, but he's too dumb to be a fascist. Well, guess who everyone laughed at and called dumb? Okay? Literally all three of those people. The European presses called Hitler like one of the biggest idiots of his time. Fascists are idiots. It's literally embedded in the ideology of fascism itself. Anti-empiricism. But, like, here's the thing. Screw it. I think that if you are at a point in history where your option is either you hand the reins of your country to, milquetoast neolibs that you hate, or fascists, if you tilt the scales in favor of the fascists, you are a fascist. You are a collaborator. And honestly, like, if someone was a Nazi collaborator, would you, like, I don't think we would be splitting hairs about whether or not they themselves were Nazis. I think that it's just as bad. So, like, it's kind of, for me, it's just kind of like, I view this entire movement that's coalescing around these third-party candidates that have no shot of winning, that only exist to empower Donald Trump. Well, I think that's you're kind of making it clear you do not care about, leftist principles or values. And, like, I understand people being disenchanted with the Democratic Party, but we all need to be clear about something. The Democratic Party was never going to save us. At least not how it's constituted now. Okay? We need to actually bother to do the work between the election cycles to actually build up a grassroots movement that is capable of not just turning out and doing meaningful protests, but also capable of electing candidates at the local and the state level, because that's how we exert power in a two-party duopoly. And if you are interested in breaking the two-party duopoly, then you actually have to build that local and state power anyway, so you can get third-party parties that are possible in your location. Like, if you actually bothered to build state and local power, you could get ranked choice voting in your state, which would enable third parties to bloom. And if you believe in that as a concept, then put your time, put your effort, put your activism in that direction. This is not that time. You can start by building, local and state power now, but we need to recognize that we have a month until the election. And in that month, we are not going to achieve goals that, like making Jill Stein the president of the United States. And frankly, even if we did make her president of the United States, I don't think she could accomplish any of her actual policies. So, with that being said, what would happen if a handful of states fell to third parties with the Electoral College? Would it do any good? I mean, it would at the very least be interesting. I'm not entirely sure what the Electoral College does, frankly, when third parties are in the race, in the running, Yeah, I mean, Olive Ryder, so many local political offices are unopposed. Like, you only have one person running for the office, and you don't know anything about them. And I do want to remind everyone that, like, when you get someone elected, like a socialist elected to your city council, that might seem like a small victory, but it can literally mean the difference between life and death for people in your community. That left-leaning voice in your community could save people's
I've come to
lives.
think very highly of you, Dead Domain, and a few others for the amazing work you do. You all give a Transgal hope things will get better.
And Tiralana, I try and put in the work, and I know Domain tries to put in the work too. We want to make things better, but we've got to make people realize that they have more power than they give themselves credit for. You, as an individual, you have a lot of power in our society to be a persistent, aggravating thorn in the side of in the side of power that can spur change. And you can actually, while you're being that thorn in the side of power, you can go around and get other people to be thorns in the side of power with you and build a political movement around that in your local community, in your state. And like, it is possible. It is hard, but it is possible to do that. And I just want people to realize that the only reason you think you can't is because huge amounts of money are spent to convince you that you are powerless. Huge amounts of money from the most powerful people on the planet is spent to make sure that you are docile and do not recognize how much power you have in our system. And Calavera Kid, yes, honestly, effective activism can be as simple as being annoying to powerful people consistently in the name of a good cause. Seattle has done it, but it is very challenging. Exactly, Blue. It is very hard, but especially in a city like Seattle, Seattle's a huge city. And if you can do it in Seattle, you can do it in the areas around Seattle, the local suburbs, the rural townships. You can do it in all of those areas. It's hard, but once you have that center, you can move outward from there. They want you to doomer. They want you to slide into the complacency of thinking things can never get better. And by they, I don't mean like the Jews or something like that. I mean like powerful people who want to hold on to that power, whether it's political, monetary, whatever. They want you to think that you are powerless, and you're not. And that scares them more than anything. Hope is the new doom. Billionaires, and honestly, 100 millionaires. They're afraid, you know? So, with that being said, please vote, and please get yourself registered to vote. Make sure you are registered to vote, because many people get removed from the voter rolls around this time of year. It might actually be too late to register to vote where you live, but make sure you look up your registration laws and ordinances where you live, because you could be able to register on election day. Make sure you look into all of that, because it is incredibly imperative that we get every single person we can out there. And folks, also look into your local activism circles. Make sure you can get out there to like knock doors, phone bank, do whatever you got to do to get more people out to vote. You know, that's we got to do it. It is do or die. We don't really have another shot at this. So, with that being said, I think we got this. I believe in you guys.